Welcome to the first April class. So, down to the wire, the last month, where you'll be finishing your presentations and turning in your major final paper. So, kind of getting things to where you have to for the semester finishing up and for the school year to end, really. So I know some of you might take summer classes. If you still need help with registering, get with me. Make sure to fill one of these out or get a picture of it or see where you are to be on track with stuff, because that's going to be something that's important if needed. I think most of you are juniors or even sophomores. So if you're going into your senior year, a lot of times you just take field, practice 2, practice 3, and then the field seminar class. So something to think about, something to do. If you come in person, we can find ways to keep it spick and span. Here's some of the cleaning stuff that we use in here. And make sure you are on track for finishing. So today we are on the chapter 8 that we had started a little bit in March on Wednesday. I know that it is Good Friday, so you guys are doing maybe possibly some Easter weekend things and enjoy that with the family however you can. I know we didn't get a spring break this year, so hopefully you can take this weekend and at least rejuvenate. Do that self-care. Check back in with doing self-care and make sure to do what you have to. So human behavior in the social environment is a big enough topic that I have added into Schoology for you some of the review PowerPoints that we did with students that were taking the licensure exam. So your senior year, you could take the social work licensure exam your very last semester. So if you're graduating in the fall, you'd take it in like August. If you're graduating in the spring, which most people do, you could take it in January. So check out that review, download it before you lose access to Schoology. I also can send you practice questions if you want them for the licensure exam. Just let me know. Ask me about them. I've got those. Senior year, you also have to apply to graduate schools. If you're getting an MSW, we are accredited here, so you'll qualify for 1 year advanced standing degree that cuts off a whole year and like 30 hours of your master's, which is awesome. I wish I had done that. Saves you like $15,000 in a whole year of your life. So you look at your senior year as like your first year of graduate school in that case, because we are fully accredited. We turned in our reaccreditation yesterday. They're coming to visit next week. We also have a teacher that we're interviewing for next year. He or she may be the director. I think there's 2 that have applied, maybe 3. They might both be male, but just making sure that we get a good director is the most important to stay accredited, keep you guys going at a fully accredited social work school, learning what you need to do your internship and practicum to move on to your senior year and graduate and get your license. If you're not doing graduate school, that's okay. If you do like graduate school, getting you ready to apply and do all of that stuff to go to a fully accredited graduate school and be done in 1 year. I think you start May right after your senior year and you'll finish. And sometimes like at UC, it's in April of your less than a year after you graduate, which is crazy. So keep that in mind. I did have a few videos I was getting into that relate to when does adulthood begin. So like the Arnett theory and Erickson, and then even Levinson theory, because Erickson's theory is as adults develop a sense of who they are and comfort with identity, entering into intimate relationships, they are more likely, interesting. Either he's talking like Yoda or that's written kind of weird. As individuals develop a sense of who they are and comfort with identity, entering into intimate relationships more likely. Is more likely? I don't know. So we get the PowerPoints from the book. With the Levinson theory, this is young adulthood. Oh, shoot, it's not in edit mode. I do want to cover some of these this way, though, before we Levinson theories of adulthood. Copy and paste. So copy and then paste and then search. So these are theorists that you will have. They are in your review, hbse, so that's always helpful. Paste and search for Levinson, and we'll go with videos too. The different theories of adult development. Levinson had quite a few, so I wanted to start out with him. If I can get it to play, it's halfway there. Cool, I dragged over the right way at least. So yeah, getting you guys ready, because as mentioned, you could be there and you could be halfway there, depending on where you are in your development. But here's the video I had found. We'll get started with, and of course it's in this this spot. They always like to show it before you buy it.
There's a saying that goes, the only thing constant is change. I bet Daniel Levinson would have agreed with that. He was a psychologist who focused his time on investigating adult development and the changes in life that create it. It was his belief that adults have a certain life structure, or pattern of life comprised of one's social dealings, relationships, and work life. This life structure is continuously affected by various seasons in life. The two reappearing seasons in life that Levinson stressed were the stable period, or a time of consistency when a person makes crucial life choices, and the transitional period, or the end of a certain life stage and beginning of a new one. Levinson identified 7 specific stages during adult development in his theory of the seasons of life. These stages include early adult transition, entering the adult world, age 30 transition, settling down, midlife transition, entering middle adulthood, and late adulthood. Meet Doris. Doris is 70 years old and has a long-awaited visit today from her granddaughter, Becky. Becky has just come home from college and has been sharing her new experiences with Doris. As Becky shares what it's like to be away from home for the first time, Doris starts thinking of her own memories from college. Even after Becky leaves, Doris continues daydreaming. She thinks about college more and then moves on to thinking about the other seasons of her life. According to Levinson, the time Doris left for college was a key beginning stage in her adult development. It is the first time when Doris separated from her parents and began to decrease her emotional attachment to them. It was the first time.
So that is the only stage that we get into in this chapter, because you're going to be in the early adulthood, so the first theory of adulthood. There's also a few TED Talks that I actually liked and wanted to get into that for a second. So it may be copyrighted. If it is, I will have you look it up on your own. But it's for educational purposes only. It's called Emotional and Social Development in Middle Adulthood, and what you do to analyze it, and then the video associated with it, because that one was a good video with Does Every Adult Have a Midlife Crisis? And the TED Talk on Other People Are Happier. I thought this one kind of really stood out because that's how we can think sometimes, really do think. other people are happier.
People are living longer, and societies are getting grayer. You hear about it all the time. You read about it in your newspapers, you hear about it on your television sets. Sometimes I'm concerned that we hear about it so much that we've come to accept longer lives with a kind of a complacency, even ease. But make no mistake, longer lives can, and I believe will, improve quality of life at all ages. Now, to put this in perspective, let me just zoom out for a minute. More years were added to average life expectancy in the 20th century than all years added across all prior millennia of human evolution combined. In a blink of an eye, we nearly double the length of time that we're living. So if you ever feel like you don't have this aging thing quite pegged, don't kick yourself. It's brand new. And because fertility rates fell across that very same period that life expectancy was going up, that pyramid that has always represented the distribution of age in the population, with many young ones at the bottom, winnowed to a tiny peak of older people who make it and survive to old age, is being reshaped into a rectangle. And now, if you're the kind of person who can get chills from population statistics, these are the ones that should do it. Because
how's it going?
what that means is that for the first time in the history of the species, the majority of babies born in the developed world are having the opportunity to grow old. How did this happen? Well, we're no genetically hardier than our ancestors were 10,000 years ago. This increase in life expectancy is the remarkable product of culture, the crucible that holds science and technology and wide-scale changes in behavior that improve health and well-being. Through cultural changes, our ancestors largely eliminated early death so that people can now live out their full lives.
So if you get a chance to watch this, it's about how older people are happier. There's a few other ones I wanted to get into, the midlife crisis, but I can't remember. Are you doing your presentation today?
I was gonna talk to you after class.
Okay, that's fine. You can do it next week or whatever. It's not a big deal.
I'm gonna for sure be ready Monday.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in this one here. Well, I want to get over to the PowerPoint first if I can.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, if I'm presenting it in person, do I still turn it in on the part really?
You can turn in your PowerPoint there, that way everybody can see it. And then also the trying to think of what it's called. Then you can copy this link and put it in as your filmed video, which is easier because like copy the YouTube link because then everybody will have access to it and you'll have it filmed by me instead of the other stuff. So I'll film it using that YouTube link and then you can paste the YouTube link like under your PowerPoint.
So how you record on YouTube?
Right.
That video,
Right. And that's the only difference is you do it in person. I'm filming it for you. Everybody else who films their own has to like get a camera, film it, paste it up, and show it to everybody. So hopefully it's helping you out. We were getting into early adulthood and different theories, and I was talking about what year do you graduate. I also mentioned registering and doing all this. So yeah, this is what you have to fill out. Have you registered yet?
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say I can throw it as a paper airplane to you if you want. I don't know if I even brought my crutch in today. That's funny. So 2 more years, right? You got 2 more?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the key is you're going to want to have one of those filled out and keep it. You can keep that one, keep it forever. So you make sure you always take the exact classes you need, and you graduate with 120 hours and have all of those classes complete.
I honestly don't think I might graduate on top.
Oh, you think you
And I
might
feel
take?
like that's because I'm doing a minor. And right now I'm doing all my social work classes.
Right.
So I was gonna look at my transcript and see what have I done.
We've got Dr. Allen here. Yeah, take a look, and I want to check in with her real fast too. We just submitted to get
I
reaccredited.
have talked to Dr. Allen. She said I am on track though.
Oh, okay. Hi, how are you? I got a student here. She said she was talking with you about her schedule and everything. Are you doing good?
Yeah, how about you?
I'm good. Yeah, we were just I was relaying the information that we are submitting for accreditation this week. Next week we'll be interviewing, and maybe some students can make it. And then what I'm
Interview, if that's Jalen, they're gonna have to come to the 4 o'clock class. It'll be her class. Is she in that class? No, she's not in that class.
No.
Oh, but what I called you about is that when the students, this came up in a meeting yesterday, to tell the students after you register them for classes that they have to get their clearance before they're truly registered.
Get their clearance from either registrar or the bursar?
All those places, they know where to go.
Right, yeah, that did come up yesterday. Because well, yeah, you're right. They're scheduling a time with you, and then they come and you're looking up the classes, and then you can't even put them in because they are either owing some or just have some other type of hold. So
even after you put them in, they gotta get clearance of it. Get out.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. And then you were, gosh, I feel like there's something else. Well, maybe we answered all the questions. I just didn't have the link to that meeting was all. You said it was in the email, and she's the only one that doesn't use Teams through Teams. I think they sent out.
No, it was George, the dean. He doesn't use it. He's the one who sent the email.
Okay, that's why I keep on, I guess, not finding it, because right at 4 I was looking in every area, and then I'm glad the vote passed anyway, but that would have been pretty bad if somehow I missed it and the vote failed.
Well, I mean, who knows?
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. So you guys got it there right from the director's mouth. She wants to make sure you're all registered and on time and going into your next round of social work. So, and then the midlife crisis video was another one that I wanted to show you guys. So let's see if I can get it to play. Oh, it's going to play within here.
If you haven't gotten to your midlife crisis yet, you're probably not looking forward to it. According to pop culture, people hit their 40s and suddenly become miserable. And to deal with it, they quit their jobs, buy sports cars they can't afford, and have affairs with much younger people. Yikes. Still, if you think about it, it's pretty weird to think that turning a specific age would be enough to make us upend our lives. So is the midlife crisis really a thing? Well, it's kind of complicated, but there's probably less to worry about than you think. The term midlife crisis was coined by psychoanalyst Elliot Jacques in 1965. He believed that you have your crisis when you realize that you'd already lived more than half your life. He studied quote-unquote geniuses like Bach, Shakespeare, and Mozart, most of whom either died tragically or became much more prolific after their late 30s. He thought that the fear of not accomplishing everything they wanted to either killed them or lit a fire under them. Admittedly, he also thought that this didn't really apply to women because they went through menopause instead. That's clearly not accurate, but because of it, most midlife crisis stereotypes today are still about men. Of course, other thinkers at that time were also talking about developmental crises. And the one who really popularized the idea of the midlife crisis was researcher Daniel Levinson. In 1975, he proposed that life was made up of a series of stable periods interspersed with crises known as transitional periods. He based his stages on work from previous psychologists and on his own study of 40 American men aged 35 to 45. Levinson thought that the biggest transition, which happened in middle age, had to do with a sense of not accomplishing enough. He believed it could be dealt with by learning to set more reasonable goals. Still, tiny sample sizes of one group aren't always reliable. So more recently, researchers have tried looking for the midlife crisis in bigger, more diverse samples, and they seem to have found it. One trend that has emerged is a U-curve in reported happiness levels. People seem to be happy early in life and at the end of it, but they slump in the middle. This trend has been found in multiple studies, looking at over 1 million people in more than 50 countries. In 2013, one researcher proposed a possible explanation for the U-curve pattern after analyzing a 13-year-long German study of 23,000 people. He said it had to do with expectations. According to his hypothesis, young people expect to beat the average when it comes to careers and happy relationships. And when things don't quite work out that way, they're disappointed. They do eventually adjust their expectations, but not always fast enough to prevent that disappointment. The result is pessimism and dissatisfaction, a double whammy of misery. But at some point, as they get older, those expectations do align with reality, possibly because, according to some research, the aging brain is less prone to regret. Life starts getting better, and because expectations are lower, it's a pleasant surprise that brings people back up the curve. Now, if this all sounds pretty depressing, it is worth mentioning that the U-curve isn't set in stone. It's still pretty hotly debated for a number of reasons. For one, several recent studies have found that well-being simply increases as we age without the middle age dip. And there are some issues with the studies that showed the U-curve too. Many of them are cross-sectional studies, meaning that they look at lots of different age people and use them to estimate trends over the lifespan. This is different from a longitudinal study, which follows the same subjects over a long period of time. Longitudinal studies can be more accurate for long-term research, but not many have been done about midlife crises. Until recently, old age, childhood, and adolescence were studied much more often than middle age. Still, the longitudinal studies that have been done tend to show that steady increase in well-being. That can mean cross-sectional studies aren't entirely accurate, but we'll need to do more research to know. There's also an issue of definitions. You might call a midlife crisis a difficult transition that occurs around age 40, but different researchers have different criteria. Is it stressful? Is it eventful? Is it internally or externally driven? Even when researchers do agree, the public's definition tends to be much broader. A 1992 study found that just 10% of people had had midlife crises when the researcher determined whether they met the right criteria. But in a 2000 study, when people were directly asked if they'd had a midlife crisis, 26% of them said yes. The public's definition of this is similar to researchers, but tends to include any stress or turmoil encountered between 30 and 65. So the idea of the midlife crisis may prevail in pop culture, partly because we take any stressful event in the middle of our lives and slap that label on it. One way or another, this is definitely a topic that needs more investigation. But the good news is that even if the U-curve does exist, it doesn't mean that middle-aged people are all miserable. On average, studies so far have shown it's actually a pretty small decrease in happiness, not the life-altering angst we associate with the stereotype. So don't worry about it too much. Your job-quitting, Ferrari-buying phase might never arrive. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow Psych. If you'd like to keep learning about...
All right, so the midlife crisis, as they mentioned, might actually have to do more with you wanting to do something meaningful in your life, is the way they describe it. And it could happen as early as 30 and as late as 60. So not everybody has to buy like a Porsche at the age of 40 or get a new younger significant other or husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend. And in counseling, they call it meaning making. How do you make meaning of your life? Like things that have meaningful existence. Some it's children, having a family, other it's career and getting that job, and some's traveling or giving back, volunteering. So anyway, how's the sheet coming out? Registration process for figuring out what you still have left to take.
I'm just confused. So I was going to try to push to meet with Dr. Allen so she can help me fill it out, because I think it would be better if she does it.
Right.
Me right now is just
You have like, if you're a sophomore, do you have 60 hours at the end of the semester?
I think I'm just stressing myself out for nothing.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I think I need Dr. Allen.
Yeah. As long as you have, are you able to access, like you look it up on your phone, you can see.
That's what I was doing, but I was just, no.
And did you transfer any classes in with you? So you've always been at Central State. Have you always taken 15 credit hours like each semester?
Mhm.
So, and this is the end of your second year here.
Mhm.
So you should have 60, which is half of the 121. One semester you have to take one more than that. You'll take most of your social work classes like junior and senior year. So, and those,
That's why I said I don't think graduating on time.
what's that?
That's why I said I don't think I'm graduating on time.
Well, it depends. Some people register then for an extra class or take a summer class. So you do
No, I said
graduate.
that because I have a minor,
Right.
and right now I'm only doing my social work classes.
Okay. So again, yeah, you should be able to add those in. If you really needed to, you take a summer course. All of the, what is the name of your minor?
Business administration.
Okay. So most of that stuff is on the left of that sheet is the core classes you have to take. All the stuff on the right is social work. And then if you have a minor, you may meet with the business personnel, like have the advisor over there go over things. But basically, you got to take all the classes on the left first, and then all the social work classes on the right last, which is like your junior and senior year. But you have to do like biology and like a science. You have to take, I'm trying to think of the other things. Writing and, I mean, you probably have already taken them. Like you'll see the class, you'll be like, oh, I took that. Have you always done 5? Like last year, you took 5 classes in the fall, and then
Last semester I had to.
So you only took 12 hours, you think, or it was like 13 or 14 hours? Okay, so that's okay. And the key is you'll see it on when you log in, and it'll say you have this many hours completed. If you're behind a little, that's okay. It could say like 55. And if you're worried about it, just take 6 in the summertime. I don't know if you like fly home and go work or it's hard to do classes, but there's online classes sometimes, which make it easier. There's a summer session from May until June, and then a second summer session from July until August. And that way you could take, essentially.
I'm not really worried about graduating late.
Right. Yeah. And if you want to take the extra semester, that's okay too.
Yeah, I know.
That's exactly what we're talking about is like definition of adulthood and stuff. So these guys, like some of them say adulthood happens. Well, even I want to open up the one other slide is there is that middle adolescence, which we were kind of.
But my freshman semester,
Did
they
you?
had me in business administration.
Okay.
And then that's when I was like, I want to do social work.
And that's okay.
Can I do a minor? And he was like,
Yeah.
You're going to have to switch your major to social work and your minor to business administration.
Right.
So
That should be.
Far behind.
Yeah, you're probably not because everybody has to take those 60 hours on the left for like just to finish at the college. And then you'll have like 40, 50, or 60 hours on the right that are your social work major classes. So, and this one was saying, well, yeah, we were talking about this one last time, how middle adolescence and late adolescence is like high school and then college. So like late adolescence is up through 22. And then adulthood, I want to go into this one. Adulthood for some people also starts at different times. So this one says, when have you reached adulthood? Age or socioeconomic factors, adulthood versus extended adolescence. Like if your parents are helping you out or if you are totally self-supporting on student loans here working, that's like the difference, like you could be halfway through adolescence and going into adulthood. Erickson Also, he's one of the theorists that they'll have on the test. He says it's turning outward and focusing on relationships with others, the intimacy versus isolation. Two critical developmental tasks. So economic independence, which usually happens when you graduate from college. So that's why if you're like me, you'll take a 5th year of college because you're not ready for that yet even. And then the other one is independent decision making. And if you're like starting to make your own decisions on your own, where you're going to live, paying for yourself, getting your own job, that's kind of the transition when your parents stop giving you that last drop of money, which makes it hard. You know, for some it's right at 18, at others it's 22. And then you want to stretch it out to 23. It's just like, oh, dang, it's getting harder to pay for the world. It's getting harder to pay for life in general. And then buying a house, things of that nature. That can be a bit of a challenge. So I did the economic midlife crisis. For me, it was about 23, and that's when I jumped into graduate school, 23 or 24. So other developmental themes, this was what Arnett said. So it's a distinct stage of development, neither adolescence nor young adulthood. That's emerging adulthood. And then period of exploration and transition into adult roles, exploring love, work, and worldview. So like meeting a romantic relationship and whatnot. And then feeling in between adolescents and adults. Which, you know, that can happen for a lot of us too. The feeling in between adolescents and adults can go like 21, 22, 23, 24. Because it's harder to move out. We're having more multi-generational households where like people live with mom, dad, even grandma, grandpa. There might even be great grandkids in there. And then one other developmental theme. Oh yeah, we're getting into theories next, but I have a review of all these theories on Schoology that you guys can download for your, you would take your social work licensure exam your senior year. So download that and keep that before you lose access to Schoology. One of the theories is Eric Erickson is the name of the guy. He says, as individuals develop a sense of who they are and comfort with identity, entering into intimate relationships more likely. I said it's written weird. It sounds like the guy is Yoda on Star Wars. I don't know if you've ever watched Star Wars, but that green dude with the ears, it's called Yoda. He talks backwards.
Oh, the short one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it says entering into intimate relationships more likely. And I think it should have an is right here. That's what they were messing up. The other theory was Levinson, and that's who we were kind of going over in the movie or in the YouTube, and we'll go over next week because I'm meeting with somebody for advising in a minute. I keep getting I have to help someone who's an advisee here in a second. But did you have any questions before I finished up here? I can end the stream too.
So the PowerPoint is about mental illness, correct?
Yeah, any major